All right, let's dive into one of history's most bizarre and fascinating books. We're talking about The Travels of Sir John Mandeville, a medieval bestseller that was packed with monsters, magic, and, well, technology that just shouldn't have existed back then. So the big question is, was it all an elaborate lie, or was it a secret history of a world we've forgotten?
You really can't overstate how huge this book was. I mean, The Travels of Sir John Mandeville was an absolute blockbuster. We have over 300 manuscripts that survived, way more than Marco Polo's account. It literally shaped how an entire continent saw the world. We're talking explorers like Columbus and Sir Walter Raleigh used this as a guide. And for centuries, people just accepted it as fact.
And get this is the kind of stuff people were reading about. A sea made of sand that has giant waves just like the ocean? It's just one of the countless mind-bending marvels he describes. You read it, and you just think, there's no way.
So for the past century or so, the official story has been that the book is this brilliant forgery, a clever mashup of other travel stories. But there's a radical new theory gaining steam that says it's something else entirely, something much bigger, a coded record of a forgotten high-tech civilization. So, which is it? Let's dig in and find out.
Okay, first things first. Let's look at the cracks in that official story. Because the folks who back this alternative theory, they argue that when you really look close, that simple, it's just a hoax explanation, it really starts to fall apart.
The whole mystery really kicks off with the author himself. See, mainstream history says, oh, it was this Belgian guy, a known forger. But this other theory? It suggests a deliberate two-man operation. You had Sir John, the English knight. He's the field agent, the guy out there gathering intel. And then you had John with the beard, a physician, who was back at base, let's say, decoding it all. Kind of like a medieval intelligence cell. And it's not just about who wrote it. It's about when. The text itself has this glitch built right into it. A time travel problem that's really hard to explain away as just some simple mistake.
And here's the glitch in all its glory. The author states very clearly that he finished writing in 1356. But inside the book, he talks about the Peace of Brétigny, which was a huge treaty signed between England and France in 1360. How is that possible? This new theory says it's no mistake. It's a signal. It's a clue that the whole account was deliberately backdated to create a safe distance from the explosive truths it was about to reveal.
All right, now we get to the really fun part, the core of this whole idea. Rereading all of Mandeville's fantastic marvels not as magic, but as misunderstood technology.
And the key that unlocks the whole thing is this concept they call Antitech. The idea is simple, really. The author was describing real advanced technology from some lost civilization, but he didn't have the words for it. How do you describe a robot when the word doesn't exist? You use the language you have, marvels, enchantments, and miracles.
So when you apply that lens, Mandeville's description of the Great Khan's court suddenly stops being a fantasy story. It becomes an inventory. Those golden birds that sing whenever someone claps, advanced robotics, maybe even acoustic drones. A giant golden vine with crystal grapes spreading across the ceiling, maybe an atmospheric energy grid. And those magnetic islands that could pull the nails right out of ships, sounds a whole lot like a weaponized defense system.
And listen to this description. These weren't just simple wind-up toys. The text says they react to their environment. A disturbance in the hall makes them move. That implies sensors, programming, reactive behavior, things that are just way beyond medieval clockwork.
The list of these incredible things just keeps going. In the legendary kingdom of Prester John, another powerful ruler, Mandeville says he had a magic mirror. A mirror that let him see everything happening in his entire empire all at once.
Sounds like pure magic, right? But think about it. What is that if not a perfect 14th century description of a centralized, kingdom-wide video surveillance network, a screen connected to cameras everywhere?
But this theory goes even deeper. It's not just about forgotten technology. It argues that the very biology of the world Mandeville saw was from a different age entirely, a world that existed before some kind of great reset changed everything.
So all those famous monstrous races in the book, from this perspective, they aren't just myths. That vegetable lamb, a plant that grows a tiny living lamb, well, that sounds a lot like advanced bioengineering, right? Growing animal protein in a plant. The dog-headed cynocephaly, which he describes as rational beings with social structures, maybe they were a distinct species of hominid, or even genetically modified soldiers.
And even the spooky landscapes get this kind of forensic breakdown. Take the Valley Perilous. It's described as being full of devils, strange noises, and invisible forces that kill anyone who enters. The bodies of the dead never decay. That sounds a lot less like a biblical hell and a whole lot more like a modern radiological exclusion zone, like a Chernobyl, the site of some catastrophic tech disaster.
So let's pull all these threads together. If the book isn't a hoax and it's full of this incredible evidence, then what exactly is it trying to tell us?
The way this framework sees it, all the pieces we've looked at, the timeline glitch, the hidden author, the crazy tech, the strange biology, they're not random lies. They're all fragments of evidence, and they all point to one single catastrophic event that brought that entire world to an end.
And that event has a name in these circles, the Great Reset, or sometimes the Mud Flood. The theory goes that there was a global cataclysm that literally buried a worldwide advanced civilization, often called Tartaria, and after the disaster, there was a deliberate, systematic campaign to just write it out of history.
So when you look at it through that lens, the travels of Sir John Mandeville totally transforms. It stops being a quirky little travel fantasy or some medieval fairy tale.
It becomes a survival archive, a black box recording from a fallen civilization. It's the last inventory of the wonders, the tech, and the realities of the world that was, all compiled by someone who knew it was about to disappear under the mud of a new, completely rewritten history.
And this one line from the analysis really just captures the whole thing perfectly. The lies of Mandeville are the truths of the erased epic. It suggests that maybe, just maybe, everything we've been taught to dismiss as a fairy tale might actually be a truth from a time we've been programmed to forget.
So, I'll leave you with this question. Was Sir John Mandeville the greatest con artist of the Middle Ages, or was he a witness, desperately trying to leave a record of a world that was stolen from our history books? What do you think?